Hello and welcome to my Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is literally a perfect game. The Retrospective, the sequel, the one you've been waiting for. Hello and welcome in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2!
Ooh, yeah. Don't you know it's pretty great?
Yeah, this sure is pretty cool. Hello and welcome to my Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is probably the best game ever made on the PS1. Hit it! Okay, before I talk about Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, there's some things I missed in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1. For instance, I never talked about how you land tricks. Basically, you have a 60-degree cone in front of you, 30 degrees to the left and 30 degrees to the right. As long as your board is pointing within those parameters, you're good. Since we're also talking about landing tricks, I figure I should also mention the fact that there are sketchy landings and perfect landings. The way I figure, and this is all just guesswork, basically if you're pointing toward the edge of that cone, it'll deduct points and call it a sketchy landing. But if you're pointed towards the center of that cone, it will result in a perfect landing and add points instead. Sketchy and perfect landings will also only occur if you've done a spin of 180 degrees or more. So you need to spin at least a little bit before this mechanic kicks in. Speed also plays a factor in that landing cone. For instance, if you are sat still and you ollie, you won't bail if you turn your board 90 degrees. I feel the slower you're going, the more the cone widens around you. Another thing I missed in Tony Hawk Pro Skater 1, I never talked about wall rides. That's kind of important. It's more important in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, but we'll get to that. Wall rides, basically you just approach a wall at like a 45-degree angle or less, and then hold the grind button as you jump towards the wall, and you'll do a wall ride. This is great for jumping to higher places, which is why Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is probably the better example. Another thing I missed from Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 is that replays could be initiated from any run, not just competitions. So you could watch a replay of any session you pulled if you wanted to. So, you know, that's still pretty cool. Something else I forgot to mention in my first retrospective is that the special meter will empty if you ever bail. Not a huge thing, but I figured I'd bring it up since we're talking about things I forgot. All right, let's go to Tom. Tom, what's it looking like down there? Well, don't you know, it's looking like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is about to start, eh? You should grab your popcorn. Get ready, because Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is about to start. If the intro didn't give it away, I think Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is literally one of my favorite PS1 games on the planet, and I don't think anyone can convince me otherwise. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is literally the perfect sequel and the absolute pinnacle of PS1 gaming. Why do I think this? Well, here's the thing. They took everything from Pro Skater 1, right? And then they basically made it better. Now, what did he mean by this? Well, you see, the thing is, Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 made all of the gameplay feel so much smoother. Not only that, but they added so much shit, just, oh my god. There's so many maps now, and there's so many bonuses to unlock. It's so great. Oh, it just makes me want to... Alright, then let's talk about all the improvements they made to the gameplay in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. We can start off with the general game feel. The game feel just feels better. Ugh. If you put a gun to my head and said elaborate instead of using general things like that, I would have to say, well, you know, the gameplay just feels better. I'm sorry. It's hard to put into words. Tricks no longer feel slow and clunky. They just feel smooth. They're sharp. The gameplay just feels smoother. Everything feels faster and like tighter. The controls move a bit better and everything just feels good to control. You pick up that controller and you say, holy shit, what the oh my god. You know what I'm saying? It's just that for your entire playthrough. They also added manuals, and let me tell you, manuals literally changed the entire game around. No longer are big combos now restricted to grinding a bunch. Now you can also manual a bunch instead. It's basically apples to oranges, whether or not you're going to like Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1 or 2 better, but I feel like people are just going to flock to number 2 more because it's just better in every way. Something else I forgot to mention in my last retrospective was the fact that grinding was not exactly perfect. If you ever ollie off of a rail and then you know, hit that same rail with another grind without another rail separating it, well, your character is going to tilt far left or far right automatically. I'm guessing they did this just because they knew grinding was definitely overpowered and they didn't want people to just grind, ollie, grind, ollie, grind. So they kind of implemented this system where if you do that, it basically makes it so you're going to fail before long. So basically, in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, they added manuals, and that is a big game changer. No longer do you have to rely on grinding for massive combos. Instead, you can manual for massive combos. It's great, it feels awesome, and it really does aid the flow of gameplay. There's not always going to be something you can grind on, but there will always be ground beneath your feet with a very few exceptions. So manuals just kind of take over. What is a manual? Well, basically you just hit up down on the directional pad or down up and you will go into a manual, and then you will then balance like you do grinding, only up and down instead of left and right. So basic tricks from land to air to land again, like jumping and kicking flips and heel flips and all that, well, those can be chained together. Going off a half pipe will still result in you not being able to chain tricks together. You cannot manual out of a half pipe trick, with very few exceptions. There are glitches, but we'll get to that. Now that we have manuals, it's a lot easier to chain tricks together, and that means that getting a lot of score is also easier. In the first game, getting 1,000,000 points was really hard. Like, really hard. It was so hard that it's near impossible for a regular casual playthrough. But in Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, now that we have manuals and grinds to connect manuals, well, guess what? It's really easy to get tons of points. And since we're talking about score, I should also mention that spinning no longer results in the multiplier going up, and instead just adds to the score itself. I'm guessing they did this just so they could nerf the scoring system, but it's already out of control, so I don't see the point. Everything feels fluid. It feels good. It's like you're controlling a bunch of well-polished rocks and they're just kind of gliding through each other, and you toss one and it's like, you know? There is just an insane amount of polish. They took the engine from the first game and they just polished it to a sheen. The magnetization from the first game returns in this game, and it's still great, and I love it. It's a perfect addition, and it really aids the flow of gameplay. But what's better is grinding just feels great now. It doesn't feel like it's a gamble whether or not you're going to be able to grind on something like it did in the first game. Psst, hey, psst, hey. Come here. Lean in. Closer to your speakers. Come on. I'm whispering here. Hey, you like tricks, dog? Well, guess what? There's tons now. There's a lot. Like, insanely so many. We got so many tricks, it's really, like, impractically long. They tightened up the trick system in so many good ways. What does he mean by this? Why does he keep saying that? And how come he's not elaborating? Well, the thing is, you see, you can now customize your skater's tricks. Any skater's tricks. All of the skater's tricks. Every character has a complete catalog of tricks that they can buy tricks from. And some of you just perked your heads and said, what do you mean buy? Well, guess what? Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 ditches the tape scoring system in favor of a cash system. Basically, you're going to earn cash by doing objectives in each level and then taking that cash and spending it on different stuff in the skater store. You can spend your cash on one of three things. Number one, you can buy new tricks for your skater and then slot them into whatever directional and button you want. Did you ever want to do a kickflip by pressing up, right, and circle? I don't know why you would want to do that, but you can. That's pretty cool. Eh? Why would you want that? You can buy specials, you can buy regular flip tricks, you can buy grab tricks, and you can do lip tricks. Since we're talking about tricks, I might as well mention that the lip tricks have been updated. What I mean is that they added quite a few lip tricks, so it's no longer just one. The longer you hold a lip trick, the faster you'll come out of it. Also, now that you can rebind your specials, there's no guesswork involved at all. You can basically just know everyone's special by going to their menu, and you can even reassign what button combination these specials are going to be. It's a really great feature, and it means that you no longer have to look up the specials for each skater. The only thing you can't change is the grinding tricks, with the only exception being the special grinding tricks. What this means is you can deck out any skater in any assortment of tricks you want, and boom, bada bing. There you go. Have fun. Do it. I don't care. The second thing you can buy with in-game cash is stat points. So this is the new system they use to replace the old system of stat points from the first game. So you can specialize in whatever you want. Speed. You can specialize in speed. You're going to want speed because in the early game you're going to want those ollies to get more cash and get to the higher places, and you're going to want speed to do objectives more, succinctly. And the third thing you can buy is different decks from the skate shop. So the cash system replaces the tape system entirely. So no longer is all of this automatic. It's up to you where you want to spend your money. You could just waste all your money on tricks and then not buy any stat upgrades if you really want. It's not a very smart thing to do, but you can do it. The money system also changes the gameplay subtly, because now the developers thought, hey, let's just put money all over the map. Fuck it. Cash is also spread out through all of the maps in different places to grab, and will ensure that you take more than one session to complete any given map. In fact, grabbing all the cash is one of the objectives, which we might as well now talk about objectives and maps. In Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 1, there was five objectives for every map, and 4 of them were pretty much the same. Now there's a lot more. Each map now has a bunch of objectives instead of just one. A lot of them are carried over though. For example, the score objectives make a return. The secret tape objective makes a return, obviously. There are still secret tapes to find in every single map, but other than that, every objective is now unique to the level. And having multiple objectives unique to the level instead of just one means that each level is just going to be a little more memorable. Most people are going to remember 3 airtime gaps, nose grind the rail, collect the pilot wings, and then also whatever. Honestly, this just makes every map feel better because now you have so much more to do on every map. These maps are designed well. Often objectives are placed in lines that'll lead you around the map and into other objectives. For example, in New York, collecting all the skate letters in order will then lead you to the subway token objective. But sometimes objectives are placed near each other in lines that lead away from each other instead. For example, in the California level, the objective to ollie the magic bum pulls you away from the other objectives of find all the transfers and spray paint cans. Overall, I'd say the level design is quite good though. Mapping the objectives and trying to figure out how to do as many as you can in one run is part of the fun of the game. Hangar, the opening map for Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, is probably one of the best Pro Skater maps ever made, ever. It's just so simple and effective and just perfect in every way. I can't really get over how nice it is. Completing objectives in maps will earn you more money, which unlocks more levels as you go. The levels this time around include the Hangar, which is a classic and the best map ever made. School 2, which is just as good and just as memorable. France. Moving on. New York, which is scary. The cabbies try to run you over. California, which is I fucking hate. It's a great map. It's nice, but I hate it. The skate park, the name of which I completely forget, and Philadelphia, as well as the Bull Ring. There are also 2 other maps you can unlock. The Chopper Drop in Hawaii, which you unlock by getting 3 medals with every character in the game. And then the Skater Heaven map, which is fucking great. You unlock this by getting 100% with all characters in the game. So that means basically collecting all the cash, doing all the objectives, winning gold medals in every competition, stuff like that. Speaking of, competitions make a return, and they're just as good as they were in the first game. It's really fun just racking up tons of score without having to worry about any other objectives, with a small asterisk on that statement because you still have to collect money on each map. Ugh. That's probably the most annoying part of any competition map, is just collecting all the money as you go. It's just not fun. I don't like it. The competitions this time include France, which is a pretty nice map, all things considered. That skate park, whose name I forget, which is also really fun. And the Bull Ring in Mexico, which can suck my dick. I hate getting the cash icons on this map. It's just really difficult and annoying to get up on those friggin' light post things. Just get up there. Just get up there. God damn it. Just get up there. Just no. Oh, it's so frustrating. As well as unlocking maps, you also unlock skaters by completing different campaigns. 100%ing each skater's campaign will unlock something. More often than not, this is just a cheat, which are back. These can be switched on or off in the options menu, and honestly are a lot of fun to play with. Sometimes though, when you 100% a skater's campaign, you unlock a different skater. For instance, Tony Hawk's campaign unlocks the 80s Tony character, which is just, you know, there you go. But you can also unlock Officer Dick again, or Spider-Man. Yeah, you can also unlock Spider-Man, and he's got 3 unique tricks that no other skater can do. Honestly, as a kid, this was really cool. I still remember unlocking him and being like, Spider-Man's in the game? What? I also forgot to mention you can change the skater's appearance between 2 presets usually. Although Tony Hawk has a third, that's 80s Tony, which is young Tony Hawk McSqueebs. Oh yeah, also, you can create a custom character. There's a lot of new stuff to do. You can now create your own skater, which is pretty fun. Like, they have so many options. Can't be a girl though, I think. If you can, take this out. You basically just give them a name, give them a hometown, decide whether or not they're vert or street or all around. Change their outfit, their clothes, their clothing color, their skin if you want, your haircut. It's pretty cool. Honestly, it's pretty in-depth for a PS1 and it's really fun to play around with. You can have 4 custom skaters, but completing a campaign with one will unlock everything that one character needs to unlock. So that means skaters 2 through 4 will not unlock anything by completing their campaign mode. Also, since we're talking about new stuff, let's talk about the biggest thing that's ever happened to Tony Hawk's Pro Skater. Custom parks. I don't think anyone realized just how amazingly fun it is to make your own park. In fact, I loved this option as a kid. When I was younger, I used to love customization in games, or like park editors or map editors were the coolest shit. I used to play Halo 3 and then Halo Reach all the time just because of Forge, and now Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2, boom, you can make your own park. What? You can what? Here, have a bunch of different stuff to choose from to throw in your park. Just enjoy, man. Just have a good time, man. This is for you. There are a lot of different objects you can place in your parks, and you can even change the theme of the park. You can change the size of the park, and the developers left their own parks on the disc so you can like go through and see what each developer made. And it's really cool to see all these tricks put in place. You can even add gaps and stuff, and you can even change what kind of gaps they are, like air gaps or rail gaps or manuals or wall rides, and it's just great. It's a fun little creative tool to have. It's just so cool. In fact, here's one of my parks. It's probably the best park I've ever made. It's called Cramped. It's like a fun little puzzle, seeing how to fit stuff in place while still giving you enough space to, skate around, and it's just fun. It's just pure, unbridled fun. And the best new feature in any game ever. This engine is tight. It's fun. It's crazy smooth. And now, here you go. Make your own map and see what you can do. I cannot, commend them enough. It is such a cool feature to have in a game like this, and I'm so glad it's in there. Some of your custom parks, if you don't connect to the half pipes, the game won't be able to register that it's the same half pipe, so they don't really know how to calculate it. So that means you can now manual after hitting pipes and then going back to other pipes. So as long as there's a break in the pipe and you jump from one to the other, you can then manual out of that if you want. It's a weird oversight and I don't understand why it's there, but it's interesting nonetheless. Another thing to touch on is the soundtrack, and oh my god, it's perfect. This soundtrack is literally the best Tony Hawk's Pro Skater soundtrack around. There's just so many good songs in this playlist. I wish I could show you them all, but I don't want to get copyright striked, so look them up. They're great. It's really, really good soundtrack. The graphics are also improved. I mean, look at it. It just looks better. The skaters are just less polygonal, and they look a lot better. And honestly, the whole game just looks a lot better. Levels look more detailed, skaters look more detailed, and everything just feels great to look at. You know what I mean? A lot of the maps also now have dynamic changes in them. For instance, in France, you can knock out this stick and unlock a whole new area to skate around in. In New York, if you hop this wall, you can now find a little secret area to play around in too. In School 2, you can knock down this lamp post. In the hangar, you can unlock this wind tunnel by grinding this little what do you call them? Rotor things. In Philadelphia, you can grind this wire to unlock a whole new skate park in the back. Things like this make the maps feel a lot better and more dynamic and just really feel alive. One big change from the first game going to the second was everything is just faster. Oh my god, look at how fast everything is. Everything's just speedier. It's faster, it's tighter, it's great. I love it. It's so good. Another cool thing is that they kept the gap system, but now it also tracks which gaps you found and which you still need to find. You can even unlock a secret skater just by getting all the gaps in the game. And honestly, it's really hard finding these gaps, so it's great that they reward you for doing so. Another thing we should probably touch on is the fact that there's still no real story in the game. It's basically just, hey, do all the objectives in the map, enjoy, have fun. And honestly, I still feel like you don't really need a story for a game like this. It's arcadey. It feels at home in an arcade cabinet. I would love to play this at an arcade, is what I'm saying. Do you understand what I mean? Two-player mode makes a return, and this reminds me of when I was a kid playing Pro Skater 2 with my brother. We had a lot of fun whenever we did play together. So, you know, it's good to have, and it's a lot of fun in its own right. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is probably the best game ever made on the PS1, and it's definitely up there in the analogs of history. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is a perfect experience, and you owe it to yourself to play it if you've never played it before. Drop whatever you're doing right now and just go play Pro Skater 2. It's so good. It's just the perfect game. When I say that Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is a perfect game, I feel like I need to clarify in some regards what I mean. Basically, what I mean by it is they took Pro Skater 1 and they just made it better in so many different ways. A lot of the maps are just tightly designed and flow very well. This goes for objectives as well as doing tricks and map navigation. Basically, it's the kind of game that has just very few downsides and very few follies. It's the kind of game they got right, because it was their second try and they just did so well the first time that it was hard to fail. They set themselves up for success and followed through perfectly with a sequel. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 came out and was basically just the best game ever. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 just came along and fixed everything that was wrong with the first game and then made so many more improvements. When I say it's a perfect game, I mean it. There's not much to talk about when it comes to follies or flaws with the game. The only flaw I can think of is that it's just too short. Sure, there are plenty of maps, but the fact that each session is only 2 minutes long should tell you all you need to know about just how long the game is in general. You can beat Pro Skater 2 in about an hour without routing any of the objectives, but you could also beat it in 30 minutes if you're really dedicated. You should see speedruns of the Pro Skater series just because they're really entertaining, and it's fun to watch people try and do these as quick as possible. Any other flaws are easily dismissible. You could nitpick and say that the park editor is not as well detailed as it should be, but honestly, the fact that it's there at all is just astounding. Once the skaters are all decked out in full stats, they do play exactly the same, so I guess that's a point against Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2. The only thing different between them at the end of the day is their tricks, and you can customize those however you want. Once you've played one campaign, you've kind of played them all. But at the same time, I feel like it's not that huge an issue. The skating engine just feels good to play with. It feels really nice to skate around on all these maps, so I honestly don't really fault them for, making all the skaters feel the same at the end of the day. I'm not saying the game is impervious to criticism, but I am saying that it is definitely nice and the effort is definitely on display. I personally can't really think of many points against the game in general. It's just so well designed and well put together that it's hard to criticize. Tony Hawk's Pro Skater 2 is just worth every second of playtime. It's a great casual game, it's a great arcade game, and it's perfect for anyone new to the series or veterans of the series going back to play. And that about wraps up Pro Skater 2. I personally feel that this is probably one of the best games on the PS1. It literally feels like the perfect game. Everything from Pro Skater 1 that I had problems with has been fixed in some regard. New stuff has been added, everything just feels better, the gameplay feels better, tighter, smoother, faster, and the maps just feel more alive and dynamic. Stuff like this, it's really fun to go back to, and I love playing this game. It's literally the perfect game. So if you've never played Pro Skater 2, you owe it to yourself to just play it. you know, experience the game like everyone else has. Thanks for watching this to the end. I really do appreciate it. I just love talking about Pro Skater 2, and I really hope you liked listening to me rant about how good it was. Go ahead, leave a comment, tell me which Pro Skater game was your favorite, or which spin-off was your favorite. If you like what I do, consider supporting me on Patreon. The money will be used to make these videos and, you know, will be funneled into the channel. And stay tuned for when I definitely don't do Pro Skater 3. Thanks again for watching, and have a great day.
Hey, Tony Hawk, can you please make another Pro Skater video game?
No, I don't think so. It's the way it is, you know. Everything must come to an end. The drip finally stops.